Hello, Fritz.
Hello, and hello to all your listeners. Excuse me.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about Illuminati coded language or codes and numerology. And in the end, you will show one of your book, I believe.
Okay.
And then we will have another session that we will talk more about the subject.
Okay, well, you've picked a very big subject, and you told me that you'd basically just turn it over to me like you did last time. So I thought to myself, okay, how do I present this subject? Because I believe that we are going to have viewers that are both very informed and people that are new to the subject. So I'm going to try to give a mixture of some basic things and some very technical, deeper things that the experienced people may not know. So I'm going to be trying to give a mixture of stuff to keep everybody interested. Now, the Illuminati is the continuation of the mystery religions. And there was a man, he's dead now, but he was a grandmaster in the Illuminati and he was a grandmaster in Freemasonry. And when he died in 1991, the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree said that he was their greatest Masonic philosopher. His name was Manley P Hall, and I had a hardbound book, the original edition that came out about 1919, his monumental work, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And that book has a lot to tell us about what you asked me about, because he talks about the mystery religions. And I'll explain to you how we can learn about the Illuminati from some of the things that he wrote about in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Now, he numbered this book using Roman numerals. So page XX, which is 20, in that book, he said symbolism is the language of the mystery religions. In other words, symbols are the language that the Illuminati has chosen to use. He also said on that page that in a single figure, a symbol might reveal or conceal a message. And that's very important, because what we're talking about here is exoteric, which is the external mask or the false front, versus the esoteric or the arcane or the occult hidden meaning. So I'm going to go into that more here in a minute. But I want to talk about one other thing that proved true in his book. On page C, which is page 100, he said that a silver and a gold Ouroboros ring were symbols of authority in the mystery religions. Well, I had the opportunity to meet a grand master in the Illuminati, and he wore a silver Ouroboros on his left hand. And when he got promoted from Grand Master to Ipsissimus, he switched it out to a gold ring. So what Manley P Hall said was right on about the Illuminati. This guy was giving very detailed information about the occult beliefs of Freemasonry and also the mystery religions. He doesn't call it the Illuminati, but if you understand that the Illuminati's the continuation of the mystery religions, and they consider themselves Gnostic philosophers, a lot of what he said will make sense. So it allows the Illuminati, using symbols, to hide messages in plain sight. So an example from psychology of this exoteric, esoteric dichotomy would be Jung, Carl Jung. He used the word persona. Persona means a public image. It's your social mask, not reality. Jung said your persona was not reality, but what people believed about you. So that's your exoteric front. Another example of how you have this exoteric, esoteric dichotomy, we go to the Word of God, the Bible, and in 2 Corinthians 11:4, it says, if you look at the Greek wording there, it says Satan masquerades as an angel of light. So angel of light is his exoteric persona, and then the reality is something else. And so the Greek word there in the original masquerade means literally to wear a mask. Now, an example from my talk in Prague, and interrupting my train of thought here, I would recommend to those people that are interested in the subject of numerology and symbols, gematria, I would recommend that they get the link to my talk in Prague in October, where I gave a PowerPoint presentation on all this. Now, where I'm at right now in Las Vegas, I don't have any of my research, and I don't have pictures and everything. So this talk that we're doing here tonight is not going to have very many pictures. You may have a few. I don't have any to show. So if people are wanting a talk with pictures, they need to go to my PowerPoint presentation that I gave on this subject in Prague. Plus, I don't like to repeat myself. I like to give new information. I like what I'm saying to be fresh and exciting. And so there may be a little bit of overlap with that talk, but not a whole lot. But I did talk about, I gave several examples of esoteric versus exoteric versus esoteric, and one was the Schutzstafeln, which was the SS in Germany, which was the protective detail to protect Hitler. But the exoteric, the external persona name was Schutzstafeln, but the esoteric name, it was a secret religion, was Schwarze Sonne. And the Schwarze Sonne, they had a black sun, and you can see that people that understand what they were all about, like this Ukrainian militia, they use that black sun on their patch. Did you have a picture of that? No.
No. It was another picture about Ukraine when the riots was there and the government fell, the coup.
Okay.
So I have just one picture how the Illuminati communicate, how they show what they are doing. That in a video at minute 3:22, which is
right. Right. Which exactly. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because when I give common Illuminati symbols, 322 is the skull and bones, the order of the skull and bones numerology, and so yeah, it's significant that you've got the 322. Go ahead and show it.
Shall I show it that how they communicate, the Illuminati? I don't know if you can see it, that suddenly in 3 minutes 22 seconds in the camera, in the picture, come a white helmet, and you can see there 888 888. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so they 8 or it's the code for New World Order. So they are telling us we want to have the New World Order, and in the camera, in the 3 minutes 22, suddenly white helmet with 888 is in the picture. They are telling us that they are like they want to force the New World Order, and white and black, it's code for the Freemason, but white is also code for Lucifer, or so it's how they communicate, and we cannot see it, like if we don't understand the language.
Right. So what you're saying is you're backing up what I said about hiding messages in plain sight. There's a number of other reasons that they do this symbology. I mean, what Manley P Hall said was the fundamental first reason, but there's other purposes behind the symbols and the numerology. And I'm going to get into some of that. You know, people that are in the cult can fix their destinies and dates by these things, astrology, sacred geometry. I'm going to get into some of this. It touches, overlaps with magic. Some of it involves, some of it's used for the mind control codes. It overlaps with alchemy. So I'm going to get into some of that later on. I wanted to talk, though, first, how there's many levels of meanings to these symbols. For instance, if you have a lion, that lion could have a number of different meanings. So I was just going to take one basic symbol, and I think I may have talked about this in Prague, and that's the letter G, which is, in Freemasonry, they call that the master's word. But what does G mean? Well, if you look at the Masonic square and compass, they'll put a G in there. Well, when you're a low-level initiate, they're going to tell you that that G stands for God. As you go up in the ranks, you're going to learn at some point, oh, actually it means gnosis, knowledge, you know, this hidden occult knowledge that they're going to give you. But if you keep going, then you're going to learn that the G actually stands for the Genitive Principle. I had a Masonic book, The Hidden Life of Freemasonry, and on the inside it had a fold out where the master of the lodge is sitting in like on a throne, and there's, you know, the checkerboard square floor, and in front of him is a whole bunch of boys naked. In other words, the Genitive Principle stands for buggering little boys, or what we call pedophilia. So as you go up, these symbols change their names. I was going to give another example of a very common symbol. So if you raise your pinky and your index finger on your right hand, like this in sign language, it means I love you. But if you go over to the left hand, and I'm not going to use my left hand, but if you use the left hand in Freemasonry, that means the two pillars. As you know, outside of Solomon's temple are the pillars of Joachim and Boaz, which relates to 9/11 too. I did a whole thing. That's another place you can have. I did 2 extensive long talks about the occult symbology in 9/11. It's just so much there that I recommend that people look at those 2. They're about an hour and a half a piece, I think. But they're on YouTube, so see if you can find me talking about the occult symbology of 9/11, because basically the whole thing, which was created by these people, is just chock full of all kinds of hidden messages and numerology and occult rituals and everything. But I'll leave that to you to find out. But back to and I've heard this hand signal called a cornetto. that's an Italian word. But in Satanism and witchcraft, that using the left hand means hail Satan. But if somebody's under Illuminati mind control, trauma-based mind control, which the CIA's program underneath that was called MK Ultra. But if they're a program multiple that's been programmed with trauma-based mind control, doing that with the left hand will trance them out, and it will take out the personality of the altar that's holding the body and leave it in. It will switch it to a deeper altar. So I just gave you 4 different meanings to one hand sign. So I'm giving this as an example that a lot of these symbols, a lot of these numbers, numerals have all kinds of uses. So just be aware of that. And Illuminati use these symbols. They're like their calling card, their fingerprint of, if they do a false flag, or if they're doing plans like you were talking about, if they're doing something, or if they're planning on doing something or doing something, they can use these things as their calling card, and then they can tell their own people, they can say, see, we did that. You can see our symbols there, you know? Or every time someone who's in the Illuminati looks at a dollar bill, an American dollar bill, they see that Illuminati pyramid with the 13 levels and the all-seeing eye, and they know, oh, okay, we see who's in control. Now, interestingly, I'm kind of switching a little bit here, but Carl Jung, who both he and who he built from were into the occult, and he said that alchemy was the bridge to the past, to Gnosticism, and it was the bridge from Gnosticism to studying the unconscious. That's very significant, because what was the Gnosticism? What is Gnosticism? Like I was saying, Gnosticism, these Gnostic philosophers, that's Illuminati philosophy. And alchemy was what the occult were doing, and there was all kinds of symbols to the alchemy symbols. And to think that those symbols would help us, that would be the foundation to modern psychology of the unconscious. That's what Jung was saying. That's very interesting. Now, going to symbols, and I'm going to bring something up that's right there in your backyard, because I came to Prague. Prague's a very beautiful city, and I walked some of the streets of the inner city, and there's a common architecture, but a lot of the buildings on their doors and facades have occult symbols. These occult symbols go back many, many centuries. In fact, I read that there were 264 occult symbols in the inner city of Prague. That's quite a bit. And one of them that I wanted to pick on was from a family that I've exposed. That's one of these black noble, they're part of the black nobility. And the black nobility, the Guelphs, ended up being the power behind the British East India Company to some degree. And you see their control all down through the centuries, the black nobility. And they also have played a role in the Committee of 300 that's been exposed. In other words, they've played a role within the Illuminati. And there's a black noble family, Visconti, which were very ruthless leaders rulers of Milan. There was a couple branches of the family. Anyway, that family branched off into the Sforza family. The Sforza and the Visconti family were the ones that invented the tarot cards circa 1451. Isn't that interesting? They're the ones that gave us the tarot cards. And the Sforzas and Medicis family, which is another family I expose, were very close associates. And you'll notice that the Medicis and the Visconti families gave us a number of popes. So like, I think Gregory the 10th was a Visconti. Anyway, moving up to modern times, you know, the elite are doing all of these, you know, NATO's Illuminati controlled, you know, and World Bank, IMF and everything. So these groups, the European Union, whatnot, they're coming up with treaties and they're signing things. Well, they use Visconti pins made by the Visconti family. Those are the ones that are used for these high-level treaties and stuff that are signed. And it's interesting because, like, one of the names of the pins that the Visconti family produce is alchemical opus, you know. And as you see, all of these elite families have been into pharmaceuticals for a long time. The black nobility got into pharmaceuticals, the Knights Templar and everything. So Viscontis are the ones that control herba, which has come under Monsanto. Anyway, the Visconti family has always been fascinated with dragons and snakes. So their symbol is the snake swallowing a human. And there in Prague, and maybe you have seen it, there in Prague on a building is a Visconti symbol. And it's a golden snake with a crown with 3 points. And its head is about to devour a human. So I don't know if you've seen that. That's one of them. Another one that I'm just going to point out a couple. I mean, I'm not going to go through 264 occult symbols that you got down there, but there's an alchemical black sun over there on your old town clock square. Maybe you've seen that. And then there's a white lamb with a horn. In medieval times, they used to sometimes draw a unicorn as a white lamb with a horn. They didn't use a horse. So interesting. So did you want to speak a little bit on what you've seen downtown Prague?
Yeah, what I am thinking now that on the old town square, when you have this man, Jan Hus, who is, you know who he was sacrificed by fire, like in Middle Ages. So he was an important figure for Czech people, one of the two most important, or three most important. And if you go from this square, behind his back, you have a street which name is Paris Street, and Paris, it's Par-Isis, the town Paris. The former name was Par-Isis, like Isis, the goddess Isis. And when you go this street, so on the other side, you have a pyramid with a pendulum, and at the place before where the pyramid is now with the pendulum was Stalin, Joseph Stalin, the dictator in the time of Third Reich in Germany. It was Stalin here, and he was there. So it's a very prominent place. So when I see this Paris Street, Par-Isis, heading towards this pyramid with pendulum, what is the pendulum? What is the time we are waiting for to put next dictator, the world white dictator, which we know that it's William Van Down. So he would be probably standing there as the biggest dictator on the Paris street, Isis, and worship him. So, and you maybe don't know it, but if you look at William Van Down's YouTube channel, Like Killers, so already 2013, they were repeating, "Our Lord will come on 23rd of September 2017. Repeat in every video." But we were working against that. Why William is so, people ask, why is he so secret? Nobody knows about practically one of the most powerful men on the planet. Because I believe in the Bible you can read about Jesus, the way he will come is as a thief at night. Suddenly nobody knows him, and suddenly the whole world will know him. It's why the Van Down family, I believe, that they keep him so secret. Still we know that he is so powerful. So he would fake to be the false coming of Jesus on 23rd of September 2013. And what time do you believe he would do that, to come enter the third temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, that we prevented to even be, of course, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because they killed Jesus at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I will tell you what happened in Prague at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 23rd of September 2017. It came a ravage because William didn't get his way. So I will show you on our posters. Can you see the Charles Bridge on the
Yes.
Yeah. So in front of this statue, which is a statue with another very important person, or Saint Wenceslaus. It's the same guy as here on the horse, on the second biggest square in Prague. Saint Wenceslaus, also another. So in front of this figure, of this statue, they thrown down an actor, well-known actor. He was 80 years old. They thrown him down to the river, but he actually crossed, his head was crossed on the bridge. Like, they threw him down to the river and killed him. He lived in Los Angeles, fallen angels. He fell, fallen angels. In front of this, what we have on the poster, because William was not successful to enter the Temple of Solomon, that wasn't even built, because we have worked so much against it. So they thrown this actor, well-known actor here, killed him, murdered him. So obvious, such an obvious murder in the middle of day, 3 in the afternoon, the day that William would enter the, and they said that the man, the actor, this 80-year-old actor, talked to a woman right before they said suicided. Guess what was the name of the woman? It was the same name as I have. I have 2 first names. Alexandra, it's the name my mother chose for me, and I have another name which is Jitka, and Jitka, it's an old Bohemian name, and it's the name my father gave me. And Jitka means Judith. Like, it's why William Van Down is so, he doesn't want you to know that in the Bible the Antichrist would be from the tribe of Dan, and he's one down. You can hear it, DN. And I am, my name means the woman that take the Jews to safety. So he knows. Nobody knows what we are fighting here, that we are playing chess for 7 billion people's life, and nobody have a clue. You maybe have a clue. But what I wanted to say, how he can, like, they killed this man on the day that William would enter the Temple of Solomon, and before that it was a very big meeting for William. It was a very important meeting in Paris by ISIS in January, I believe 13 of January 2017, and it was about peace in Israel and Palestine. It was his interest. He was there, and they sacrificed a Czech girl with name Michaela Patricia Muzikarova, and why they picked her, it was her name, Michaela. It's like Michael, Archangel Michael, Patricia, noble, Muzikarova, music, it was the musician Lucifer. So they picked her with NATO forces from her home and sacrificed her at the full moon, 12th of January in the afternoon in Paris by ISIS, like Princess Diana in Paris. And it was William Van Down personally who murdered her. And gave orders to murder this man on 23rd of September 2017. And now I will keep shut up. you can continue.
Well, I thank you. I'm going to take things back on track to the subject of symbols and numerology. But like you're saying, they are able to use symbols to broadcast to each other what they're going to do. And so you have been trying to track what their plans are by looking at these symbols. And one of the things that both you and I have noticed, I don't want to get sidetracked on this, but one of the things that we have noticed is that there's been hidden hints, strong hints that the Hoover Dam is targeted. So yeah, I only mention this not because I want to get sidetracked, but that there are reasons or positive purposes for those of us who are not involved in all of this occult nonsense to learn some of this, because it will help us understand the hidden world out there. Now, I'll give an example off the top of my head. I'm from the Portland area, and there's churches that have Masonic symbols on them. Well, most Christians just walk right by that and they don't realize, oh, Masonic sign, that church is connected to the Freemasons. But anybody who is a Freemason and in the Illuminati, if they looked at like Charles Taze Russell, who started the Watchtower Society, he put Illuminati and Masonic symbols on his magazines and books. And so if you were familiar with that kind of symbology, the meaning, you would know, oh, he's telling us what he's associated with, but it went over everybody's head until I had the privilege in 1990 to expose it. And part of why I was able to expose it was, again, Manley P Hall gives the interpretations of so much of this in his great book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. So I wanted to discuss for our newer listeners, those people that haven't studied this subject really deeply, I wanted to mention to you some of the basic Illuminati symbols and places where you might see them. Now, first I'm going to give 7 of these Illuminati symbols that Freemasonry also uses, because Freemasonry is like the glove. If the Illuminati is the hidden hand, Freemasonry is the glove over it. So there's a lot of overlap between Masonic and Illuminati symbology. So both groups use the pyramid. If you go to the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., and that's where the Supreme Council, the 33rd degree of the Southern Jurisdiction, has their headquarters, you find an unfinished pyramid in the building. The unfinished pyramid was the Luciferian symbol that Satan hasn't been enthroned, because the capstone on the pyramid was Lucifer. He's the capstone, the all-seeing eye. He's the all-seeing eye. And so when I first began exposing the Illuminati back in 1990, there were lots of examples of pyramids that didn't have a capstone. But in 2010, I started seeing that the capstone was on there. So that is pretty strong message that we're entering into a time period where Lucifer is going to try to take his throne. Another symbol that both the Illuminati and the Masons use are obelisks. You'll notice that there are obelisks, Washington, D.C., the Vatican, Paris, in the financial city of London, back in Egypt. What is an obelisk? An obelisk, if you'll pardon me being so blunt, is a phallic cardon. And so you will see a lot of Freemasons buried under obelisks. If you go to a Masonic cemetery, you'll see a lot of obelisks. You'll find the presidents, the prophets of the LDS Church, a lot of them were buried under obelisks because they were Freemasons. Another sign that the Illuminati use is the pentagram. And we had a satanic bookstore. I mean, they were openly a bookstore for Satanism in Portland. And when you walked in, they had a mannequin, which looked realistic, a mannequin of a woman witch inside a circle with a pentagram summoning a demon. And so the pentagram is a sigil for Baphomet. It's a sigil to bring down a demon, a big demon, big daddy demon like Baphomet. And another symbol that both the Illuminati and Freemasonry use is fire. And there was the chief librarian of the Library of Congress, who the elite thought was one of them. His name was James H. Millington. He wrote a book, Fire in the Minds of Men, and he exposed basically the secret occult societies like the Illuminati were behind the French Revolution. His book got published because they didn't realize someone who was an insider would write so much. But once it got out and they realized what has happened, they really tried to suppress the book. Anyway, the title was Fire in the Minds of Men, and it relates to this whole symbology of fire going back to Prometheus, enlightenment, to Lucifer, all of that, which are all sort of similar concepts. Another basic symbols, or I should say symbols, are skulls and snakes. You see a lot of those involved with Illuminati groups. The Order of Skull and Bones, very active with skulls. you've got the all-seeing eye, and you're seeing that everywhere. Now everybody's making the triangle with their Hollywood actors love to make the triangle, the pyramid, with their hands over one eye, the eye in the pyramid. But already in 1776, Pierre Eugene du Cenitive, he was an Illuminati member from Switzerland. He came over to the United States. He created our Great Seal of the United States in 1776 with the all-seeing eye. So we were already getting Illuminati members. The presidents that we had before George Washington, we had a number of presidents of the United States before George Washington under the Articles of Confederation. George Washington actually was the last president under the Articles of Confederation, but since he was the first president under the new Constitution later on, we know of him. He's called the first president. But anyway, there were some Illuminati members that were president before Washington. Washington was not an Illuminati member. He was only a Freemason. But anyway, they made a Washington monument, and the Washington monument that the Freemasons made was an obelisk in a circle. So if you look at it from the sky, you've got a point in a circle. A point in a circle is both an Illuminati symbol and a Masonic symbol. Now, the Bavarian Illuminati used the point or the dot, the point in a circle, as the symbol for their Illuminati group, the Bavarian Illuminati, their order. The Freemasons use it and give it several meanings. One meaning is it's the grand architect of the universe, their God. It can also represent the eye in the pyramid, which would be Lucifer. It can also represent, going back to what we talked about, the Genitive Principle. You got a point in a circle. It's suggestive of a little boy's rear end. So, there's different meanings there. If we go back into sacred geometry, we find out that the Pythagoreans thought that the point in a circle meant eternity. The pagan Egyptian mystery religion also had the point in a circle as a phallic symbol. It was a solic phallic symbol, which also was a sexual symbol. So that ties in. That Egyptian mystery religion comes forward clear up into modern day Freemasonry. Now, there's some Illuminati symbols that the Freemasons don't use. One is the Ouroboros that I mentioned earlier. That's a snake swallowing its tail. Another one is what you and I have already discussed, the 322, was a special numerology for the Order of the Skull and Bones, which is a chapter of the Bavarian Illuminati, which in turn was a branch of the Illuminati as a whole. The owl was used by the Bavarian Illuminati for a couple of their ranks, the Minerval rank and the Illuminati minor rank. The owl was a symbol for those ranks, and the owl means an enlightened one, and you see that in the Bohemian Grove. They use that as their logo. They also do a cremation of care where they either sacrifice an effigy of a little baby, or on some years they've actually sacrificed an actual baby. And then in the back, those are the front rituals. Those are the exoteric rituals, so to speak. The more occult rituals are actually done further back at a different place. It's only been in recent years that we found out about this other hidden site, this, I guess you could call it an open air temple, where they do the heavier rituals in the back. 666, that goes back to Revelations 13, it's the number of the beast. And you would think, well, this is just a Bible reference. But the occult world has picked this up. The Illuminati has picked it up. Hollywood has picked it up. I mean, I've watched some movies where they just keep throwing 666 in your face. One of their common tricks is they'll show someone going and getting into an elevator. Now, in the script, it wouldn't matter whether he was going to the 3rd floor or the 2nd floor. I mean, he's just going to some floor, right? Well, many times in these movies, he'll be going to the 6th floor. So you'll see him push the 6th button. He'll get in. They'll show a 6th button, and then they'll show another 6th button. They'll show 666 3 times. And they do that in quite a few movies. Once you're aware of it, you can start picking up how they're just like throwing 666 right in your face. But there's so many places that 666 occurs. You know, it's very popular with these people. Means the beast. I mean, I've seen people tattooed with 666. People in Satanism, you know, Church of Satan, Church of Set, they love the number. I mean, they're infatuated with Satan or the Egyptian equivalent Set. Were you wanting to say something?
No, when you're talking about 666, actually, if you say number 23, it means for them also 666, because 2 through 3 is 0.66666. So they use also 23 as 666, and also when they are, for example, Bitcoin, it's also, I believe, the work of these Satanists, of course, because Bitcoin BC 23, it's like 666 also. And I believe if we know, or we believe that Nibiru will come, and during some time the internet will not work. So what do you believe will happen with all people who have Bitcoins or their money in Bitcoin? It will be perish like. So I believe this Bitcoin was started in 2009. It was the year William Van Down became the boss of Illuminati. And also, if you look at the name of the person who was said to start the Bitcoin, it sounds like almost Satan. It sounds so similar word of Satan that you cannot say it more. I don't remember it's some Japanese name, but it sounds really close to Satan. So I believe it was just they knew about Nibiru. They knew that all these people will lose the money, and Bitcoin BC 666. Yeah, sorry, and then it was this 9/11, like the Roman 9/11. And if you look at names of people, can you see Nikki Haley?
Yes, I do.
So it's 9th, I is 9th letter, K is 11th. So her name, it's encoded 9/11/11/9, and H is the code for New World Order, H or 8. So she will be also as the tool to destroy us. And if you look at who has got the Nobel Prize for literature this year, he is from Japan, and his name, his initials are IK 9/11, and people believe that Japan will be destroyed quite heavily by the Nibiru, which many of us believe will come now. The flyby, not that it will hit us, but the flyby like the discussion. So it's like the Nobel Peace Prize, you know, Bel, Baal. It's like Satan, isn't it? Bel, Baal. So no bell in Swedish we don't say Nobel. We say in Swedish Nobel. You hear the bell. So it's like satanic. And previous year in for the literature prize got Bob Dylan, who is he said openly that like his chief, what he has achieved, it was Satan. With other words, he said the chief in the hidden he talked about. And the same year as he has got the Nobel Prize for Literature, he has produced an album with name Fallen Angels. You know, and now the literature is this Japanese with code 9/11. Like they are telling us what they are planning, and so sorry I interrupted you now.
No, that's fine. It's good that it's not a monologue, that it's more of a dialogue, and thanks for sharing all of that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, all of the different titles that they give to these books and movies. I mean, it's really quite revealing. And what they're doing is they're just bombarding us from so many different angles with occult messages and occultism, you know. And then like they came out with a documentary, Flower of Life. Flower of Life is sacred geometry, you know. And so what they're doing is with the younger generation is they're bombarding the younger generation in the public schools with magic and sacred geometry. And they have convinced the younger generation that Christianity came along and suppressed all this hidden knowledge, and that now that they're getting rid of these Christians, the Christian influence, all this great occult science can now come up. And, you know, this stuff that they're calling New Age, or this stuff that all this numerology and all of these symbols and everything that they try to make it glamorous and like it's new. This is all stuff that's been going on for many, many, many centuries. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I pointed out all of these 264 occult symbols on the facade of these inner city Prague buildings. Is this stuff goes back to like the 13th century. You know, this isn't new stuff. Welcome to the Dark Ages, people. All this stuff that you think is new, no, this is the Dark Ages of paganism resurfacing. You know, this is not something enlightened. So they're making these younger generation really love this stuff, because they think that they're becoming enlightened, that they're discovering what's been suppressed. And so that's one of the purposes behind some of this, the sacred geometry and everything. They're making it sound like, well, what they're doing is they're taking science and they're turning science towards the occult. And they've taken Christianity out of our culture, and now they're turning the culture towards magic and paganism. So let's look a little bit at numerology. In numerology, what they do is they reduce all multi-digit numbers down to a single digit. So let's say you have the number 27. 27, 2, and 7 adds to 9, so that reduces to 9. It's very interesting that whenever you multiply a number times 9, whatever you get, like let's say 9 times 9, 81. 8 plus 1 equals 9. So you never get away from 9. 9 is that constant that you come back to. Well, there's 3 double-digit numbers that in numerology they allow to stand. 11, which we've been talking about, which means the power of the male and female joined, your hermaphrodite, androgynous power there coming together, which is Lucifer himself, because Lucifer is pictured as hermaphrodite. By the way, the word hermaphrodite comes from Hermes and Aphrodite. You had Hermes, the god, and the woman Aphrodite, and their offspring was hermaphrodite, which was, if you see a picture of him, her, whatever he's a male-female combination, which is now what Hollywood's doing a lot. A lot of the actors that people think are women were originally men, and a lot of people that people think are men were originally women. So this is getting really bizarre. And Playboy, now that Hugh Hefner's died, is getting into the act by having transgenders, men that have mutilated themselves and become women. And they're now using that in their pictures that they're putting into the Playboy magazines. So 11 meant the power of male and female combined. 22 meant the master builder. 33 means the master philosopher, master teacher. So when you have a 33rd degree Freemason, you're talking about someone who's considered to be quite a Gnostic philosopher. Now, you also have, like I say, a lot of symbology. 33 occurs in many different places. The azimuth, when the sun is at the highest point in the sky, is the 33rd degree. So understand that with a lot of these numbers, they can have lots of different meanings. I went over the number 5 when I was there in Prague, which I think you enjoyed, which means war. And so the supreme war chief in the United States is a 5-star general, and the star that the generals wear has 5 points. Now there's other kinds of stars. There's 5-pointed star, 8-pointed star, 9-pointed star. I want to point out that the 9-pointed star is the mother of darkness, the Illuminati's female branch of the Illuminati, which is the mothers of darkness. 9-pointed star represents that. So then every now and then you're going to see people like Hillary Clinton, who's a grand dame, or George Bush Sr.'s wife, Barbara. I saw a picture of her with a 9-pointed star once. You're going to see these 9-pointed stars every now and then. And like you're saying, it's a tip-off to things. You're going to see suns in occult symbology, different numbers of rays, 8, 12, 16 rayed suns. Sun worship and Saturn worship is very important. A lot of Illuminati symbols include the sun. So you see sun worship and sun symbols used a lot along with the all-seeing eye in Catholic churches. I exposed some of that in Prague in my talk. Let's see. Kind of shifting gears here a little bit, speaking in general now. So you have codes and ciphers. In English, we use the word cipher and code to mean the same thing, but technically they're not. A cipher is a one-to-one correspondence. So a cipher would be like what you were showing, where H means something, or this letter means that. That's a one-to-one correspondence. That's a cipher. A code, on the other hand, could be several things together or a word that means a whole sentence or something. So there's no correspondence there. It's different links between the code and the message. So you got that going on, and so the occult secret societies are using codes, and I gave 40 pages of codes in my formula book that I introduced last time, and its sequel, Deeper Insights, also has another 40 pages. So one of the things that I talked about that pertains to this talk is the OTO, which, you know, in Prague, I talked about the esoteric and the exoteric names of the Order of Toav, the Order of the Oriental Templars. And they had a programmer, and understand these organizations work as subsets of the Illuminati. So they had a programmer, a mind control programmer that we know of as Dr. Starr. And in working with programmed multiples, what he was using for the codes for these trauma-based mind control victims was sigils, magic sigils. Okay, well, let's say you are a youngster, you're a millennial. What is a sigil going to be presented to you as? They are telling young people, oh, you can expand your mind, you know, use drugs, use magic, and expand your mind. So they'll say, take this sigil and you meditate on it, and while you're meditating on it, masturbate, and then the meaning and everything of the sigil will get into your subconscious. So what they're trying to do is hack the subconscious. So you're using these sigils to hack the subconscious. Well, in the mind control, they control the subconscious. So what Dr. Starr was doing is he is controlling the subconscious with these sigils. But there's another level here. If you realize that these sigils are magical symbols to conjure demons, spirits, you realize that they can control the subconscious through demon spirits too. So there's another layer here. There's a spiritual level of control involved with these symbols too. So along with these occult symbols, we have to realize that there's a spiritual aspect of it, you know. Just like you're going to play with the tarot cards that the Visconti family invented, you're going to tie yourself into spirits, you know. And the cards that we have today, the playing cards, they evolved, or they were developed from the tarot cards. And these cards, the playing cards, are used a lot for the codes, for the mind control. So we see multiple purposes to so much of this. It used to be back in the American Civil War, that time period, that people were more aware that playing cards were connected to the occult. So it was very common that soldiers, you know, in camp, they would be bored, so that they would have decks of cards and they would play cards around the campfire. When they knew that there was a battle coming, they didn't want to be caught dead and face their maker with cards. So they'd throw their decks of cards away. So the campgrounds would be littered with decks of cards that were thrown away, because they didn't want to be caught with something occult when they died. But wow, maybe you can jump in here, because I need a moment to gather my thoughts for the next round of things.
No, Fritz, I believe that it's getting very late, because you have been talking, or we have been talking in 1 hour, and we have still the book that you could talk about. And then in the end, I would like to mention something about Hoover Dam, because many people understand that Hoover Dam is the big false flag. So I would just like to mention something about it also. And then if you could say now when we have next, yeah, it's your book. Please, could you say, talk about your book now?
Go ahead and tell us about the Hoover Dam and what you were going to say. Don't let me interrupt you.
Okay, I can say it now because it's important that we will prevent it. Actually, last time we were talking, the day after, for you, the day after they would open the Stargate, or they would do the CERN Hoover Dam attack. And today we are in the same situation, because for me today, for you tomorrow, they would open again the Stargate Hoover Dam, and they have the technology. They can do it as I know. It's since the late 2014 they can open it, and they have been trying many times, and it's very important that we prevent it. So what we could do on your side in United States, if they would open the Stargate, it's like this, that CERN would throw a bomb with conserved energy into Hoover Dam. At that time, the Hoover Dam would be charged with electricity, the water. So on your side, that if you work for prevent that the water will be charged, and we, the 22 countries, the member countries, the citizens, have been tricked and fooled. I am dual citizens, Swedish and Czech. Both the countries are member countries of CERN. CERN is a genocidal machine. It's a device. It's much worse than many nuclear bombs. If they would open the Stargate, much worse. It would be the start of it would be the beginning of the end for humanity. So we have to prevent it. And I don't know the Czech law yet. I guess there are some paragraphs, there are many paragraphs the same, but I know the Swedish criminal law. And there is a paragraph, if you sign an agreement and you didn't understand that what it means, you have been tricked. It's illegal, and you have also the right to get compensation. So according to the Swedish law that I know, there is a paragraph that we can use to stop CERN. They are above law. They have their immunity to do anything. We have to shut down CERN ourselves. I have tried since at least January 2015 repeatedly to Attorney General Swedish and yours, to politicians. Nobody did anything. We have to do it ourselves, because we would be killed. We can talk more and time what would happen if the Hoover Dam portal would be open. You are the first to be hit. What would happen? And you know that there are reptilians, you know that there are robotic soldiers. It's not secret for you. I don't say anything new. It would be terrible what would happen if they open the Stargate. We have to prevent it. So yeah, it was what I was would like to say for people in United States. Just say no, the Hoover Dam will never get charged with electricity to do this, to, like as I said, at the same moment as when they threw the bomb with conserved energy produced in CERN, it must be charged, the waters of Hoover Dam must be charged with electricity. We have to prevent it. Yeah.
So interrupting you here.
No, it's what I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. So I'm for the listeners that are new to some of these subjects. What Alexandra has done is she's gone through a process where she learned this, and then she learned this, and then she learned this. So I think some of the things you say, you know, you mean well to warn people, but you've gone through a process of learning these things. And when you give your final conclusion to people, it's like so startling that they don't know what to make of it, you know. So, yeah, if we do another show, maybe what we can do is step the listeners through some of those steps that you and I have gone through to come to some of our understanding. I mean, some of the things that I have said over the years, the final conclusion is so startling to people that when people that don't like me say, "Oh, Fritz believes this, this, and this," but they don't give all of the steps that I took and I learned to get to that final conclusion, then it sounds like it's really crazy. So maybe we can discuss some of those stages or steps that were involved for you to come to those conclusions. It's been a process for me to understand CERN, and gradually over the years I've become more and more concerned. The world's greatest theoretical cosmologist, Stephen Hawking, he wrote A Brief History of Time, very famous man, and he's somebody who has been highly respected because he's the top in his field, and he is seriously concerned about CERN. So, you know, I realize, Alexandra, you're not the world's top theoretical cosmologist like Stephen Hawking's, but you're in good company. He's concerned about it too. So anyway, so you do have a right to voice an opinion. You know, he's voiced his. Of course, he's not been listened to any. He's the top expert, and he doesn't get listened to. So don't take it personally if these people aren't listening to you. They don't listen to him either. I was going to show real quickly the cover of one of my books, because you were asking me to introduce some more of my books to people. This is the cover to the Be Wise as Serpents book, and it's a systematic study of the systems. It especially goes into the religious control, that how they set up the religious control, how they're controlling the different religions, and it's an 800-page book. And again, my books, you can look at them. They're illustrated, or the front covers are shown on my website, pentracks.com, pentracks.com, pentracks.com. And I think we've used up the time that you wanted to allot towards this. And that's probably just as well, because if somebody's listened to us for an hour and 15 minutes, whatever it is, they've done a pretty good job. They need a break. I hope that I've enjoyed sharing with you listeners today about some of what I know about the Illuminati symbology and numerology. I hope that it's been educational for you, edifying, and thank you very much, Alexandra, for having me on.
Thank you so much, Fritz, and good night. Good night in the United States.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.